What if I told you that the very strategies designed to boost the economy could be the reason that you struggle with your retirement plan? Worse yet, if you're already retired, the Fed's economic games are wreaking havoc, making it nearly impossible for you to stay comfortably retired. Listen, the Fed has been manipulating our economy for decades, and those who follow along blindly are setting themselves up to lose in retirement. In this video, we're uncovering the hidden economic truth that's been buried for centuries. This economic truth, it explains the growing wealth gap, rising inflation, and why lowering interest rates might not be the fix that you're hoping for. Hey there, my friends. My name is Ryan D. Lee, and today we're going to be diving into a game most people don't even know they're actually playing. I'm going to call this game the loser's game. From the big promises of the Fed to ultra low interest rates, everything seems designed to boost the economy. But what if it's having the exact opposite effect? What if everything that the Fed is doing is actually slowly destroying the economy with a deceptive facade? In the past decade, we've witnessed unprecedented levels of economic stimulus, the largest in US history by far. Yet economic growth, the entire thing that this stimulus was meant to accomplish, has remained pretty much stagnant, and national debt continues to spiral out of control. So the real question is this: has the Fed learned from its past mistakes, or are they playing a politically convenient game, offering short-term fixes that make them look good now, but ultimately jeopardizing your long-term retirement security? Because I want you to consider this: the decisions that the Fed is making will not impact the Fed, the ones who are making the decisions. It's going to impact you and me. So today I want to share something that's been hidden for centuries, a concept that explains why the rich are getting richer and while the average person is getting left behind. Let's start with this question: will lower interest rates help or hurt the economy and ultimately your retirement? Since the 1990s, the Fed has been using ultra low interest rates to supposedly boost the economy. But after the strongest stimulus push from 2009 to 2021, the economy is still struggling. Debt is growing by over $1 trillion per year, and it's almost heading towards $2 trillion annually. The big question is, does this level of growth justify more than a decade of free money? My friends, in my opinion, not at all. Growth rates have fallen below even those of the Great Depression. And the reason is simple: low interest rates paired with a weak economy create massive problems. They inflate a debt balloon, leading to more inflation and even more volatility. And the numbers don't lie. Core inflation is still rising. Higher prices are putting immense pressure on your savings and your investments. And these higher prices are making it almost impossible for you to even plan for the future. Consider this: at the rate of inflation that we've been experiencing over the last 4 to 5 years, how much is it going to cost you 5, 10, 15, 20 years into the future to afford your lifestyle? My friends, the math makes it nearly impossible to consider even having the ability to retire at the unprecedented levels of inflation that we're experiencing. Now, on top of all of this, the Fed just announced in its benevolent tone that everything is fixed, the economy is good. All of the indicators indicate that we can start cutting rates again, stimulating the economy with interest rates that are lower than they were before. But is this really the right move? I mean, let's break it down. Why lowering interest rates isn't the quick fix that it appears to be on the surface. So let's talk about the interest rate roller coaster. Since 2010, the Fed has kept borrowing costs at or near zero levels. You can see that right here on this graph, right, where the line is almost at zero. Now listen, while this temporarily stimulated the economy, what was the real cost? This is the most important question. And were these ultra low interest rates the very thing that are causing the massive inflation that we've all been experiencing these last 4 to 5 years? Let's take a look at housing prices to demonstrate this. Listen, ever since the Fed started massively lowering interest rates beginning in the year 2000 all the way to today, you can see the blue line of interest rates going down and the red line of home affordability, the cost of housing, massively going up. And you can see today the massive problem that most Americans have. Because of crazy low interest rates for a prolonged period of time, affording anything, especially a home, has become almost impossible. Look at this massive delta between home affordability and low interest rates. Sure, the Fed says inflation is slowing, and this is the justification for lowering interest rates again, but my friends, this doesn't tell the whole story. In fact, this microcosm of inflation slowing neglects the entire big picture. Yes, inflation has dropped from the 7 to 9% levels it was just a few years ago, down closer to the Fed's target level of 2%. We're closer to about 2 to 3% right now. But my friends, here's what this completely ignores: a 20% permanent price increase on everyday goods. Look at what has happened from 2020 to 2024. This massive spike in the real cost of living for everyday Americans has gone up 20%. It is 20% more expensive for you and I to live in this new America, even though the Fed says inflation is slowing. My friends, all they're talking about is this little teeny decline from the top of this massive spike. In order to correct this problem right here, interest rates would have to stay high for the next 20 years, the same amount of time that they've kept interest rates at or near zero. So, my friends, here's the thing. Lowering rates right now is kind of like the Fed waving a white flag. It signals that cheap money is the only tool that they have left to avoid a much deeper crisis. It also signals that they're willing to sacrifice long-term benefits for short-term gain. They're doing what is politically expedient versus what is ultimately in the best interest of you and I and our future longevity in terms of our retirement planning. So in order for you to truly understand what's going on right now and why the rich are getting massively richer and the middle class are getting wiped out, I'm going to take you back in time to 1734. Let me tell you a story that explains everything happening today, because in 1734, an economist named Richard Cantillon was murdered. And he was murdered under mysterious circumstances. His work, well, it was burned. Everything that he built, everything that he discovered, everything that he documented was burnt, except for one surviving manuscript. And this manuscript revealed an idea so dangerous that it likely led to his murder, because it explains every economic problem America is facing right now, beginning with the concept of the flow of money. The phenomenon known as the Cantillon effect works like a champagne tower. New money benefits the people closest to the source of the printing press, the banking, the elite, definitely the political class, and the wealthy. The closer you are to the printing press, the creation of new money, the more you benefit. But by the time the money filters from the top all the way down to the bottom to the rest of us, that money has already lost tremendous value. Our glasses are left empty. This explains right here the wealth gap in America and why the wealth gap continues to grow. Cantillon didn't just predict inequality. He warned that printing more money at the pace that America is currently doing it would enslave nations to foreign debt, hollowing them out from the inside. He said this would create the illusion of wealth just before the collapse. Now, let me say that line one more time. He said in his paper, the one that survived, the one that was not burned, that the illusion of wealth from fake money would be the thing that signals the coming collapse. If we look around today, there is a massive illusion of wealth. Fake money and massive debt because of low interest rates inside of our economy makes everyone feel wealthier. But is it actually true? Are they actually wealthier? So does this sound familiar? Because it should. It's exactly what's happening in America today. Let me share with you this graph to demonstrate. Okay, the green line is the money supply, and you can see the money supply is steadily increasing. The red line is the net worth of the top 0.1%, the top 99%, those closest to the top of the tower. Remember, the banks, the elite, government insiders, anyone close to the printing press, the creation of new money, the green line. Look at their wealth. It has almost mirrored the creation of new money. The rich and the money supply have massively increased, and everyone else, the remaining 99%, it's represented by the blue line. Look at the disparity of wealth. It all comes down to one thing. How close are you to the printing press? How much access do you have to the money supply? And if you're on the lower end of that champagne tower, you are losing. You are getting wiped out. My friends, this exact phenomenon was described by Richard Cantillon all the way back in 1734, and it likely led to his murder. So let's talk about how we're living out Cantillon's warning in America right now with some actual examples. Once thriving cities are literally collapsing under the pressure of debt. But people aren't mad at capitalism, they're mad at the money printer. The system was designed to benefit a few while leaving the rest of us behind. Just look at San Francisco, for example. It was once a beacon of economic success, but now it's a shadow of its former self. Poverty is spreading in cities that used to thrive, and it's happening faster than anyone expected. Every major economic city in America, the quality and the standard of living is plummeting. It's the illusion of wealth with the reality of wealth actually coming true. Cantillon effect in action. Now, let's bring this back to your money. What does all of this mean for you? The key takeaway is that both politics and investing are a loser's game. And you win in this game by simply not losing, by avoiding the big loss that could destroy your financial future. Here's how this plays out, and here's how you can win by not losing. Number one, ensure that you own real assets. The key takeaway is this. Both in politics and investing, they're a loser's game. You win in this game by not losing, by not being kicked out, by avoiding the big loss that could destroy your financial future. Here's how this plays out in politics. You avoid becoming a victim by supporting policies that reduce public debt and lessen the taxpayer burden. Right now, some of the candidates are talking about flooding the economy again with cheap money as a solution. But my friends, the real economic solution to the problems that we're facing is a permanent reduction in federal spending, not low interest rates. It's flooding the economy not with more money by lowering interest rates, but flooding the economy instead with cheaper energy prices. This will lead to more jobs and then a permanent reduction in government spending. But now this brings me to investing. The most important thing you can do is understand the game of money. The game of money today is debt. I want you to watch the video that I did on this entire subject. Your objective as an investor is to do two things. Number one, get closer to the printing press. The way you do that is you access debt to acquire assets. You ensure that those assets rise with inflation and generate enough of a profit to cover the debt. My friends, this sounds risky and dangerous, but I want you to understand this. It is the only way you can win in this game. Now, on the backside of you accessing more debt, getting closer to the printing press, you have to build up massive liquidity. That liquidity is your key to accessing more debt. You accessing more debt to acquire more assets is the key to winning in this game. Because without this, inflation will destroy everything you try to save. So this brings me back to the conclusion that lowering interest rates right now might feel like a temporary relief from a high cost of living, but history is telling us the opposite. Each time the Fed slashes interest rates in a weak economy, it's a sign of desperation. They're artificially inflating the economy, and it always ends up with more inflation, more volatility, and more pain for everyday people. And if you don't believe me, let's just look at the last time the Fed dramatically lowered rates. After the dot-com bubble burst in the early 2000s, after the 2008 financial crisis, these are two times in recent history that the Fed lowered interest rates as a way to combat economic uncertainty. Both times they fueled a temporary boom followed by a bigger crash. Why? Because cheap money and debt can only keep the economy propped up for so long. At some point, there has to be real production, real value behind the cheap interest rates and the cheap money. Eventually, the bubble bursts. And who pays the price? Well, my friends, it's not the elite. It's not the feds. The ones making the decisions have no skin in the game. It's you and I, the average everyday person whose savings and investments get slashed and thrashed and devalued. Now, I want you to think about this. What happens if you don't protect your retirement? What if the next spike in inflation wipes out your savings? What if the system you're relying on is rigged against you? Avoiding the big loss means protecting yourself from rising inflation, market volatility, and bad investments like long-term treasury bonds, like markets, or anything that is outside of your control and that is going to get destroyed by ongoing inflation. My friends, you need a strategy that allows you to get close to the printing press and then protects your profits in a private contract. This is why we've built the passive income machine. The passive income machine does exactly what I've explained to help you move from the ones getting wiped out in the game to the ones getting closer to the printing press and protecting your wealth over the long run. So my friends, here's what I want you to do. Stop playing a loser's game. The game that everyone is playing with their fingers crossed hoping that it all works out is the loser's game. Raise your financial IQ, which I applaud you for being on this channel, and understand the rules of money, and then start operating within those rules. They're very clearly defined of what you need to do in order to win in this economy. Start protecting your money and get close to the printing press. If this video opened your eyes, hit that like button and subscribe. Stay informed, stay protected, and join me in the next video where we'll dive deeper into strategies to help you achieve financial freedom in 10 years or less. Fearless.